What in the world did I just sit through? What did I just witness? I'm pretty sure I just had years shaved off the back end of my life. What a tough, ugly watch this game was, and on top of it, they lost. They lost.
When the Indiana Fever stepped onto the court Saturday night against the Los Angeles Sparks, everyone expected a different kind of story. What started as a routine game quickly turned into another episode of WNBA referee incompetence, and this time, the evidence was undeniable.
Now here's the one thing with that last play that I'm speaking about. It seemed like they called it a loose ball foul at first, which would have been favorable for us because we have them in the bonus. Yeah, we were in the bonus with 5.5 minutes left to go. First time all season, I was shocked. We grabbed the rebound. Looked like they called it a loose ball foul. Yes, we can go to the free throw line. Oh, they changed it. Reset time.
The Fever lost to the struggling Sparks 89-87, but the real story wasn't the final score. It was watching the refs turn their backs on basic player safety while completely ignoring Sophie Cunningham's face being grabbed right in front of them.
The LA Sparks just got the spark versus the Fever for some reason, man. But the Sparks always have matched up well with the Fever since last season, man. Tough ending for the Fever girls. Just some missed free throws, some questionable shots. Could have got it, man. Close game. I ain't even mad. The intensity is there, man. This team, if they can keep up this intensity, it's going to be real nice when Caitlin Clark gets...
This wasn't just another bad night of officiating. This was systematic referee bias that exposed everything wrong with WNBA officiating when Sophie Cunningham was literally tackled to the ground in what started as a 50/50 challenge and then had her face grabbed, and the refs did absolutely nothing about it.
And the referees, let's just blame the referees and say, hey, but you called a loose ball foul. This was a game that we should have won. Again. And a game that we lost, unfortunately. 89-87, Los Angeles Sparks defeat the...
Meanwhile, Sydney Colson made a perfectly clean play, only grabbing the ball with her hands, and these same refs called it a foul. The absurdity reached peak levels when they had to spend nearly 5 minutes at the monitor debating what should have been obvious, Colson's legal defensive play.
A disaster. This was a disaster. The Indiana Fever cannot keep losing to teams like the LA Sparks if they're supposed to be a good team. And Rickea Jackson, she just flat abused the Fever in the last 3 minutes of the game. Seriously, what was...
The contradiction was mind-boggling. Cunningham gets her face grabbed after being tackled to the ground, and the officials act like they're watching paint dry. But Colson makes a textbook basketball play, using only her hands on the ball, and suddenly the refs are alert and ready with their whistles. The hypocrisy was so blatant that even the broadcasters couldn't hide their confusion at this ridiculous inconsistency.
Sydney Colson, man, shout out to her, dog. I can't overlook her. 6 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds with that intelligent block. Like it. 2 of 4 from the floor and then 2 of 3 from the 3. I mean, she was shooting like she was the scorer of the team. She put on her airy bag tonight. My.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. This is the same Sophie Cunningham who has been consistently targeted for protecting her teammates all season long. She's the player who stepped up when Caitlin Clark was getting mauled by opponents, and now she's the one needing protection that the refs refuse to provide. The footage from Saturday night shows Cunningham being grabbed around the neck by Julie Van Loo during what should have been a routine loose ball situation, yet no foul was called. The refs deemed it a jump ball, as if violent contact to a player's face and neck area is just part of normal basketball play.
And we talk about this. We are circled on everybody's schedule. Everyone, no one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on, and we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but as one of the leaders on the team, I got to do a better job of grouping people, right? In the fourth.
What makes this even more infuriating is that we're talking about the same referee crew that spent an eternity at the monitor reviewing Sydney Colson's clean block on Rickea Jackson. Colson made a perfect defensive play, only touching the ball, yet the refs initially called it a foul and then needed 5 minutes of deliberation to overturn their obviously wrong call. The fact that they had to challenge such a clear defensive play shows just how lost these officials are. The pattern here isn't just bad officiating, it's selective enforcement that protects certain players while leaving others vulnerable to assault. When Cunningham gets grabbed by the face, suddenly the refs develop selective blindness. But when Colson makes a clean defensive play, they're ready to blow the whistle faster than you can blink. This double standard has been plaguing the Indiana Fever all season long, and Saturday night was just the most blatant example yet.
They went with Lexi Hall in the starting lineup, and she was just trying to get charge calls all night, trying to get the charge calls because she was lacking with the size with Rakia Jackson. So I understood why she was doing it and trying to get Rakia in foul trouble. It was smart. But at the end of the day, that last play, you never flop and give the ref the game to call. You never flop in the clutch moment, man. I'm sorry. I did not.
The absurdity reached its peak when you consider that the Fever lost to the Los Angeles Sparks, literally one of the worst teams in the WNBA this season. The Sparks entered the game with a 5-13 record, holding the second worst record in the entire league. This is a team that has been struggling all season, yet they managed to beat the Fever largely because the referees refused to call obvious fouls while making phantom calls on clean plays. Caitlin Clark was desperately needed for this game, and all those analysts saying the Indiana Fever are better without Clark have been exposed as completely delusional. You could see from the game that they were missing their superstar badly. With Clark healthy and on the court, the Fever would have probably won this game comfortably. Instead, they're forced to battle both their opponents and the referees while missing their best player.
Here, let's point out the obvious. A lot of people said it. We can officially rest in peace. R.I.P. Undertaker, Tombstone Piledriver. The theory that this team is better without Caitlin Clark. ESPN, you got your ears on? We can officially Tombstone Piledrive that BS. If you can't see how incredibly limited the Indiana Fever are on offense without CC, you're either not watching or you don't know what you're watching. Agree.
The Indiana Fever now sit at 9-9, but they're probably 10-0 against the refs because these officials just don't want to give any decisions their way. Every game becomes an uphill battle where they have to overcome not just their opponents, but also systematic bias from officials who seem determined to make their lives as difficult as possible. When your team has to use challenges on obvious calls while getting no protection from violent plays, you know the system is broken. During the game, Sophie Cunningham was grabbed around the neck by Julie Van Loo in the first quarter while diving for a loose ball. The contact was clear, deliberate, and unnecessary. Any competent referee would have immediately called this what it was, an obvious foul with potential for escalation. Instead, these incompetent officials called it a jump ball and acted like nothing happened. Even more disgustingly, they showed no concern for Cunningham's safety or well-being after she was grabbed around the neck. Sophie Cunningham is unfairly targeted, while Sydney Colson's clean block was wrongly penalized. The refs called a foul on Colson's legal defensive play, forcing the Fever to challenge an obvious good defense. Then, these same officials spent nearly 5 minutes at the monitor debating whether Colson's textbook defensive play was legal. Think about the message this sends. Grab a player around the face and neck? No problem, play on. Make a clean defensive play using proper technique? That's a foul that requires several minutes of video review to get right. The incompetence is so blatant that it borders on criminal negligence. These refs are literally putting player safety at risk with their selective enforcement of the rules.
Colson, 5 assists, no turnover. Colson, she played herself a good game. Michaela Timpson, 5 points, 1 block, really 2 blocks. I'm not sure why it's only talked about as 1. 6 rebounds. Michaela Timpson looked great today. Michaela Timpson looked pretty good today. I gotta be honest. 3 fouls in 12 minutes, not what you would like to see. 1 foul was definitely...
The Indiana Fever's loss to the Sparks was heartbreaking because it came against a team they should have beaten easily. The Sparks are struggling with a 6-13 record after this victory, making them one of the worst teams in the league. This was supposed to be a statement game for the Fever, especially playing at home without Caitlin Clark. Instead, it became another example of how bad officiating can completely alter the outcome of games. What made this loss even more frustrating was how close the game remained throughout. The Fever were right there, competing despite missing their superstar and dealing with atrocious officiating. Aaliyah Boston led the way with 23 points and 12 rebounds, while Natasha Howard added 21 points and 9 rebounds in another strong performance. The effort was there, but they couldn't overcome the combination of missing Clark and facing biased officiating.
And also Howard. Howard was doing a big one too. 8 of 11 from the field, 21 points, had 4 turnovers. Have to take care of that ball, but 2 blocks, 1 steal, 3 assists, and 9 rebounds. Howard has been consistently giving us everything she got out there, man. So I have to give it to her. She's been giving us everything she got. So shout out to her. Yeah, they took care of the ball pretty well today.
The Fever missed their last 5 shots, including 4 in the final minute, as the pressure of playing shorthanded and fighting the refs finally took its toll. When you're constantly battling uphill against both opponents and officials, those closing moments become exponentially more difficult. Every possession matters more when you know you're not getting fair treatment from the referees. This loss perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with WNBA officiating and how it's impacting competitive balance across the league. Teams like the Indiana Fever are forced to be perfect while dealing with inconsistent and biased officiating, while opponents can get away with dangerous plays like grabbing players around the face and neck. The Sophie Cunningham face grab incident represents a new low for WNBA officiating standards. When officials ignore obvious, dangerous contact while spending 5 minutes debating clean defensive plays, they've completely lost sight of their primary responsibility: player safety and fair play. The fact that Cunningham could smile and laugh it off afterward doesn't excuse the ref's failure to protect her.
Somebody was saying earlier, and I took note of it, that when the Fever called a timeout at the very end of the game, anybody know Stephanie White didn't draw up any plays? What are you doing exactly? What would you say it is that you do here? Question mark. The office, your office space. What would you say it is that you do here exactly?
Coach Stephanie White needs to be applauded for continuing to call out this systematic bias, even though she's been fined multiple times for speaking the truth. After Saturday's loss, she delivered another reality check about the team's need for discipline, but the real discipline needed is from the referees who continue to make a mockery of professional basketball. The Indiana Fever will continue to fight through adversity because that's what championship-caliber teams do. They've shown they can compete without Caitlin Clark winning the Commissioner's Cup and putting together impressive performances, but they shouldn't have to overcome referee bias on top of everything else they're dealing with. When Caitlin Clark returns from her groin injury, this Fever team will be legitimate championship contenders. They've developed the kind of defensive intensity and team chemistry that can carry them deep into the playoffs. Sophie Cunningham has been a crucial part of that development, serving as the enforcer who protects her teammates when officials won't. The WNBA needs to take a hard look at its officiating standards and accountability measures. When referees ignore dangerous contact to players' faces while obsessing over clean defensive plays, they've failed at their most basic responsibilities. The league's credibility is at stake, and fans are starting to notice the obvious bias that's affecting game outcomes.
Things that go into that. At the end of the day, we got to be more disciplined. I didn't feel like we guarded our yard very well. I felt like we had times where we got them going the direction that we wanted to, and we bailed them out by fouling. But they did a good job of continuing to just put their head down and attack us and force us into those fouls.
The Indiana Fever's 89-87 loss to the Los Angeles Sparks exposed the ugly truth about WNBA officiating once again. Despite Sophie Cunningham being grabbed around the face with no consequences and Sydney Colson having a clean defensive play initially called a foul, the Fever refused to let corrupt officiating completely derail their season. They've shown the heart and determination that championship teams possess. As they move forward with a 9-9 record, one thing is crystal clear: this Indiana Fever team will not be victims of biased officiating forever. They're building something special, and when Caitlin Clark returns healthy, combined with Sophie Cunningham's willingness to protect her teammates and players like Sydney Colson making winning plays, this squad will be ready to compete with anyone. The playoffs are still very much within reach, especially when Clark comes back from injury. The Fever have proven they can win big games and compete with the league's best teams. They just need the referees to do their jobs and protect all players equally, regardless of which team they play for. Until that happens, every game will be a battle against both opponents and officials. But this Fever team has shown they're ready for any challenge that comes their way.